Hi, guys. Welcome back to Chas Speaks, where we have Ian, and we're going to finish up our talk on systematic racism. If you watched part one earlier, you know we touched on some of the history, more of the history of the Democratic Party getting into systematic racism, and so right now we're going to get more into the core, into the depths of systematic racism. Hi, Ian. Welcome back. And
Hey, thank you for having me.
time to talk to me. So I'm going to go ahead and give you the floor. And also remember to like, share, and subscribe. I'm trying to get to over 1,000 subscriptions so I can go live and do many other things. And I hope that I've earned your subscription. So just push that little button and also the bell to know when I drop new videos. All right, Ian, take it away.
Well, we were talking last time about the Democrat Party and it's the part it played in systemic racism because everything that Americans know about racism, the Confederacy, they only hear about it, but they don't know who did it. But the Democrat Party was the Confederacy. They hear about Jim Crow. They think, oh, and the Democrat Party tries to make you think it's America who did it. But no, it was the Democrat Party created Jim Crow. And they tell you about segregation, about America was segregated and how horrible. But that's a lie. The Democrat Party was segregated. Because as I said to you, year after year, every 4 years, the Republicans would have their convention and black people would attend. So no, it was, but in the Democrat Party, there were no black people attending. And not only that black people would attend the Republican conventions, the the Democrats would be so incensed that black and white together were meeting as equals, they would attack and shoot and loot. They even 1 year they even attacked the Republican convention because black and white were together in there. So
What's going on right now where anytime there's some conservatives or Republicans together, they're starting to get attacked. So history truly does repeat itself because that the same thing that was happening back then is happening back now. Is happening right now.
yeah, the Democrats have never changed. The only thing, as I said to you before in the very, very first session, is that the black leaders capitulated. Once they picketed the Democrat convention and sat on the floor, the leaders of the Democrat convention, who was the president at the time, LBJ, and the Daly from Chicago, they decided we have to do something. So they decided to talk to the leaders of the picketing. Now remember, the picketing was to seat black delegates. They did not seat black delegates in 1964. The Democrats still did not. All they did with the picketers was made a deal with them that we're going to give you, the leaders, real power, you, the leaders, real wealth, and you will get us the black vote. And so what you're seeing today, why all black people are so invested in the Democrat Party, is what the black leaders tell them, because they've always looked to black leaders, especially church leaders, because many of the people in the civil rights movement were church leaders, like Abernathy, Vivian, MLK. All these were church leaders, very prominent church leaders. So they looked to that, and the deal that they made with them. If you look, every black prominent Democrat is rich and hasn't worked. Jesse Jackson, even and Paul Lewis, who just died. I mean, I'm sorry he's dead, but he was part of it too. Very rich. Huh?
Al Sharpton.
Al Sharpton. All these people are very rich and don't work. So what the Democrat Party does, it makes sure that it gives them ample money. And in many cases, it's crooked money. Or not all the time very crooked, but on the edge. So that if any one of the black leaders decide to go against them, then they get in trouble. Because the Democrats can say, hey, look at what this person is doing, and then bring them back in line. So there's a corrupt a corrupt deal going on between black leaders and the Democrat Party today. Say all bad things about racism, about the Republican Party, so that the blacks vote for the Democrat, and they keep getting the largesse and getting richer and richer and richer and live great lifestyles, while the majority of black people live at the bottom. Because part of the deal was we also going to make sure they have good welfare, good social security, and those issues. We'll take care of them. But it's based on a theory that the vast majority of black people are inferior. And these guys who were the more communist leaning guys also were disciples of W.E.B. Du Bois, who believed that most black people are inferior. He himself is a black man.
Wasn't
He
he
believed
the talented 10th?
he's the one with the talented tenth. What a talented tenth means is only approximately 1/10 of black America can really do anything for the black race. So in their head, making a deal where only the top leaders get wealth and only the top leaders get sorry only the top leaders get wealth and the rest get welfare and so on, and they shepherd and look out for the black people with the Democrat Party. That's a deal that it goes along with the Democrat Party theme from the day that it was founded, which is that black people are inferior.
So how does this all wrap up to now this huge thing of systemic racism that the Democratic Party has put up there? How does it all tie together?
Well, how it ties together is that the systemic or the systematic racism is all the things that the Democrat Party has done to bring black people to the bottom of American society.
So there,
It did.
but is systemic. I'm just gonna say systematic racism. Is it as prevalent as it is? And I think that, like I told someone, that if we're gonna look at the systematic racism, then we have to go in and look and see who owns the systems. And from my count, from big tech, um, the pharmaceutical companies, the education systems, the prison systems, the all of that, they're all, if you look at all the people who are in the head of all those um, industries, they all are Democrats.
True, but also the blacks are at the bottom of the barrel because of an artificial view of black people. They look at black people as inferior and therefore to be taken care of. And anyone that someone else is taking care of will be at the bottom.
Well, I mean,
What, what we what we need? Go ahead.
but then if then that really just speaks to the mind of a person. So because a Democrat couldn't stop you from being a lawyer. A Democrat can't stop me from being a writer or doing what God. So, but if they perpetually put it out there that you can't do this, that you can't do that, it's not so much of a systematic racism issue. It's more of a mind issue where people don't think that they can go and get those jobs because they've been programmed to think that they can't hire them because they can't get those type of positions or go to college or do that because of this systematic racism that I mean, there are going to be races in Fortune 500 companies and everything, but the system is kind of like the Matrix. Once you open up your mind, I mean, you nothing really can stop you.
Well, exactly. And if you tell a child from the time it's young that everything is against you, you can't rise, the system is against you, then the child will self correct itself. It will self say, well, I can't do this, I can't do that. And that's what they keep telling black people from the time they're young. The system is against you. Mom is sending the child out. You have to be twice as good as the other person. But when they tell me that, I say, oh yeah, I'm already twice as good as the other person. I'm too bad. You know? That's not something bad for me. That's something good for me. You know, and they keep telling you that, oh, you need to be included. You need to be included. But no, we need to be telling black people, you can do whatever you want to.
Right. I'm
Just
always a big proponent of, instead of teaching kids to be employees, that we need to start teaching them that they can be employers, that they can go out and make a company instead of have someone give them a job.
exactly. But the Democrat Party doesn't want you as a black person to think that. They want you to think as a black person, there is no way you can do any of that. Oh, they give. Well, why are the Vietnamese coming into America and creating businesses and creating wealth? Oh, because they give them all kinds of breaks in the background and everybody, and so they give them all this falderall about how people come to America and survive. It's an active telling of black people, you can't rise, and black leaders play a part in it. They play a part because they get paid very well. So
Right.
you
Have all these millionaires like Oprah, Van Jones, Don Lemon, all these millionaires, these black millionaires telling black people how oppressed they are. Instead of, if they really wanted to help black people, they would set up workshops and say, well, this is what I did and this is what you need to do. Instead of, like, but I just understand how other black people can't look and say, look, you made it. Why can't I make it?
Well,
Like,
when you have your pastor and your other leaders telling you this, it becomes, as you call it, a group think. But it's also more of a group psychology, how groups think and move. But just as you see, it's a group think. The problem can be solved with a counter group think. And it goes into the question that the person was asking earlier: how do you solve it? How do you bring the policies in? And if you look at one time, Democrats told black people you have to be a slave all your life. But when the Republicans came in, they said no, you don't have to be a slave, and they passed the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th Amendments to the Constitution. And black people who 5 years earlier were slaves became a congressman sitting in Congress, became a senator. Now, when the first black senator was seated, every Democrat senator walked out. They couldn't fathom that idea. Just as Democrats today can't fathom blacks making it on their own, that the system is not against them and we have to protect them.
yeah,
So,
it's want it from the womb to the tomb, and that the government was never meant to take care of people from the womb to the tomb. That's just too much control. I mean, sometimes, like with the welfare system, you use it as a hand up, not a hand out, and it's a good, uh, safety net in case. And that's one of the good things about America, is that, if you do get on your knee, get down and fall, and you need a help for a time, that safety net is there. But the Democrats want that to be there forever because they know that,
especially for black people.
yeah. And I
But
know,
because remember, that's the deal they made with the black leaders in '64. LBJ was the one who made the deal. And
well,
so, uh, and so when he got that passed, he was just fulfilling his promise to the black leaders to make sure welfare is there for the black for blacks. But what he has done is remove the black father from the home because he no longer has to provide. It's no longer a safety net, but a provider net.
right. So while we're on the subject of LBJ, can you just touch on the LBJ, the Great Society deal, and how it was a covert move to destroy the American families? I know you kind of touched on it, but if you could just explain on it a little bit more.
Well, from what I've researched, it was more of a move to pay the black leaders for their allegiance. But it ended up destroying the black family especially. I don't think they set out to destroy the black family. It was a side effect of what they were doing. But they're still today so focused on the deal they have, which is make sure you give these people welfare as you promised, make sure we have wealth, we the leaders, as you promised, and we'll make sure we'll do whatever it takes to get you to vote. And even if it's destroying the black family, we will not pay attention to that. They didn't say that, but they just said dismay because their focus is this deal they have with the Democrat Party and to cover up the Democrats Party past so that blacks will vote for them. So I call it in my own musings the deal with the devil. You know, they made a deal with the devil, and we're living the deal with the devil today. So, but if you tell a black person today that no, that's not what happened, it's not that Republicans were racist in the past and it was a Democrat Party, they don't believe you because the deal works well. The Democrat Party controls the media, it controls the school, so where it can push those ideas daily into you from a kid.
Yeah, over.
So the only way to overcome it is to do what the Republican Party did in the beginning. Have a series of civil rights law, the 13th, the 14th, the 15th Amendment to the Constitution, the Civil Rights Act of 1866. So Republicans have to come together as a group. Now, we talked earlier on about Trump coming up with a platinum plan for blacks, which includes some of these things. But Trump alone can't do it. The whole Republican Party has to come together and decided here today we have some real civil rights law, not the 1964 civil rights law which Democrats passed. If you ever read it, you wonder who is it for? Because there's nothing in it for black people, but they keep referring to it. I say go read it and tell me where in it is for black people. We need a real civil rights law, like the 1866 law, the 1875 law that the Democrats repealed for black people, the civil rights acts that really help black people. I mean, we don't have room here for me to detail every aspect of what it should include, but that would be the framework where you begin to make black people's life better. Let them see that, hey, this narrative about I'm oppressed from ever in America is a lie. Because once upon a time, black people were in power.
Well, do you think that the Platinum Plan is a good start? I mean,
it's an excellent start. But
oh, go ahead.
But the weakness is just Trump is announcing it, and nobody's going to take it on.
Another thing is that when I tell people, or because I've shared his plan on my Facebook page, and I've had a lot of people going, well, why is he just putting this out now? And I go to them, I say, well, what has the Democratic Party ever put out? Ever?
You're correct.
And they're just like, I mean, because they're so entrenched in the idea that Trump is a neo-Nazi, that, he's evil, all his people are evil. And so that also kind of triggers something that even if you say all the good that he's done, they are still going to say he's a Nazi. He's this. So it's like there's like the blockage where they can't.
Yeah, but white Democrats couldn't pull that off if they didn't have the dirty deal with the black Democrats to save it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So Rainy Day wanted to ask you a question about systematic racism. And I think we've touched on some of it, but it says what specific laws were or how can Americans recover from them? How long will it take? And what role will the federal, state, local government play moving forward? And I think that this Platinum Plan is a huge step forward for moving forward.
It is. When I saw it, I was surprised that Trump would even know what to put out. Because I've been in my research, I've been saying these things need to be done, which is a comprehensive plan for economic development for blacks, access to capital, access to history. And the number one thing that needs to be in any new civil rights bill is a law that removes the statute of limitations so that blacks can sue any party, any group, any organization that took part in systemic racism. That needs to be paramount so that some people can sue the Democrat Party out of existence. because it's not going. If we pass a law like that, the Democrat Party is not going to survive the courtroom.
Well, and also, what's remarkable to me about Trump is that the Republican Party really doesn't need the black vote to get into office, but the Democratic Party needs the black vote to get into office. So I think that Trump actually reaching out to the black community, I think he really cares. I think that he really, because as me and you talked about, he was, before he became president, or ran for office, he was never classified as a racist. Not like he was never demonized like he is now. As a matter of fact, he was always in the black community. He was actually one of the ones that, when he opened up his resorts in Mar-a-Lago, that he petitioned against the racism of the other clubs, and was his club was the first one to open its doors to blacks and Jews. So I just by listening, I listen to a lot of his messages, his rallies. I don't just listen to clips. So I really do think that he genuinely cares about the American people, about black people, about white people, about Hispanic people. I think that he cares about the America as a whole. And I think putting out this plan, I think that it really does speak to his character and his care for the African American community.
Well, the black leaders have demonized Trump so much that the vast majority of black people will not even listen to him. They only listen to what others say about him, like the whole thing about the verifying people on both sides. Now, the black leaders are saying just that one line. If they listen to Trump, they will hear the whole paragraph where he says, when I say verifying people, that does not include KKK and white supremacists. They're not fine at all. That, in the same breath, he said it. They take out the one line and attribute it to something. So I want you to see what I'm saying. I want everyone listening to see what I'm saying. It has nothing to do with reality. It has to do with the deal they made with the Democrat Party to keep their wealth, their power, their status, to paint the other as racist. It has nothing to do with reality. And so they would take lines that they feel that they can feed to the populace and that would work because the populace have already so demonized the target that they would not see the other side. But again, trying to prove a negative is horrible. Trying to prove Trump is not racist, you're putting yourself in a terrible place. What you have to do is to go on the affirmative and bring out all the bills, make it a national parade. It can't be something hidden, brought out on the side. And to answer the person's question, we have to bring out bills that show blacks that there's hope for them in America. We have to bring out policies that show them that once upon a time, blacks were powerful in America. We have to bring out bills that show them who they are. You can't, defending is never a winner. Republicans have to go on the offense. But you said something, they don't need the black vote. The other problem with Republicans and the blacks, they felt we spent over 100 years doing stuff for blacks, dying for them, hundreds of thousands of years. And then they go back to the party that brutalized them. So Republicans just feel like, well, they put their hands up in the air. You come if you want, you come if you don't. And I'm saying, please, no, don't give up.
Yeah.
You know?
And I that's why I tell, because when people come knock at my door, because election season and everything, and I asked them, I said, why don't you go into the black communities? And they said, we really want to, but he goes, they don't listen to us. They shut their doors on us. It's like, so we focus on the people who we know that more than likely are going to vote for us. But I think with Trump, and I think with more I actually think that black conservatives are going to make more of a headway than white conservatives, because when we're a threat, we're breaking down those walls that say that we don't have to vote this way. Like, I had to tell several people, because one of them told me, they're like, "Are you a Russian bot?" And I said, "No, I'm a
Well, but it's more than that because you had in the 80s you had a white Republican mayor of Jersey City. Jersey City is across from New York City. You stand and you see the beautiful vistas across there, and it was a dump. This white mayor went in, Republican mayor, revitalized the city.
Was that Julie?
Became no, Giuliani was in New York. His name because Schlesinger, because he has a difficult name and I don't have it in front of me. It's been what 30 years ago. So he went in there and he was popular. But a host of black leaders the next election from around the country descended into Jersey City to tell them you cannot vote for a white person.
Oh wow.
Yes, so it's an active campaign by black leaders for the Democrat Party because they get paid heavily for that. That's the deal that happened in 1964. Is still working today. And if you want to break that up, you have to understand the deal, how it works, and how to interrupt it. Because they're not going.
The deal.
Excuse me.
You should
Huh?
write you should write a book called The Art of the Deal.
Someone else already did that. Yeah, no, I want to write a book talking about how to get a remedy for the deal because that deal and the black leaders because they believe in the talented tenth and they're doing well. They're in Congress, they're in mansions, and then they look down and say, "Oh, poor black people." They think they're doing their job,
So
but I'm saying no. There's another model where all black people do well. So it's not like they think that black people can do better. They think this is it. This is the holy grail. But we need to come in and say, no, all black people can do well, not just these corrupt leaders.
exactly. But it also
Yes,
the mind is like even the Bible says, be not conformed by this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. There's gonna be some psychological transformation going through. Where
true. But people don't change. People don't change with inertia. Inertia. You have to bring some force.
no pain. Pain,
Yes. Well, I like to say in my own private mantra, people only change with pain, with trauma.
yeah.
People only change with trauma. So you have to bring some opposite force to make people move in a different direction. Because if an object is moving forward, you're not going to get it to move backwards without some force. If even you put your foot down on it, it will stop. You have to put some force and send it back in the other direction. So if Republicans want to solve this issue, they have to get that driving force, which I talk about. They have to come up with a series of initiatives that can make the momentum shift. But first, you have to get Republicans to care because they feel like these people abandoned us. We gave up blood, sweat, and tears to free black people, and then look at what they're doing. So that's the first two steps, I think.
So okay, I got two more questions for you. One of them, the last one is from Rainy Day, and he said, "What policies should we be looking for to those we elect in office?"
Well, is he talking about specifically about the systemic racism issue, or in general? So
Talking in general, like what should because a lot of people. Well, first, one thing I would say that you should actually look at the policies because a lot of people that I know and well, change it with conservatives. We can talk about policies all day long, but with other people, it's just like, well, I'm just voting for him. I'm just voting blue no matter who. So I think he's talking in general, like as a person and not telling anyone how to vote. What policies do you think people should look for that are going to be like to better them?
yeah, you're right because politics is about pocketbooks in the end, and
Mm-hmm.
blacks now think pocketbooks mean government welfare, government programs, government deals. That's how they look at pocketbook. If you want to remove them from that, you have to give them something else to show how they can get wealthy, do well in life, not through government, but by access to capital, by access to understanding entrepreneurship. All those programs that you can do, you have to change the idea as to what it is about pocketbook issues. But because they and the Democrat Party think that they're inferior, they're not thinking at the moment in mass about, oh, I can go out and do it myself. No, they're thinking about who is going to help me with my pocketbook. Not are you going to make the regulatory atmosphere such that I can go out and create wealth. So that those are the kinds of things and policies we have to bring in place. It will begin with handholding because when people have been doing something for a long time, you don't just change them. You got to put a force on them. You got to show them how. One simple policy, for example, we can do is to get private companies. I mean, let's take Google for example. If
I don't think that he's asking you like what policies. I think he's saying like right now in this election, what policies should like if you're looking at Biden's policies and you're looking at Trump's policies, what policies make sense to vote for?
oh, okay, so it's a more specific question.
Yeah.
Well, for me, for someone who is in business as a business person, I want to see low taxes so I can go out there and make money, keep more money in my pocket. I want to see low regulation so that when I hire someone, it doesn't become a nightmare. And so I'm tempted not to hire anybody. So I can, I don't have to go through the hassle of dealing with an employee because the Democrats have made hiring someone so difficult that you have to be a big corporation to hire effectively.
Mm-hmm.
You want policies where you can say, all right, if you create wealth in the black community, you get a tax break. If you create wealth for where blacks live the most, you get to keep some money and transfer it forward to the next year. Those kinds of policies that would build up black businesses, that would make black people hire black people. If you're going to Chinatown, Chinese are hiring Chinese every day. No one goes into Chinatown and say, hey, you need diversity and inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
And they're building wealth.
But what if you're not black and you're just looking for just or no normal regular policies? So it's just going to be contingent upon what your morals are and what your values are. Like for me, my policies are for bringing jobs back home, a secure border. I am very much pro-Israel, very much pro-life, very much pro-freedom, Second Amendment, First Amendment, the whole Constitution, very much pro-family. Not sure if I said that. So those are the things that are important to me. Also, like school choice. I don't think just because you're poor, live in a poor neighborhood, you should get a poor education. So I think with that question, I think that it's going to depend on your values and your morals and what's important to you.
Well, I think one of the points you make is school choice, because reading up in civil rights law about the decision Brown versus Board of Education, when they send back to the local jurisdictions, all the blacks says we don't want integration. We want more money for our schools.
Mm-hmm.
But Thurgood Marshall and the other groups of the NAACP who were litigating the case decided, no, that's not good because everything black is inferior. So they push for the integration as opposed to choosing where you want to go to school. And that in the end now today, blacks are segregated back again because that's what they want. Blacks want to go to school. Most blacks want to go to school where blacks are. Most whites want to go to school where whites are. What we need is a policy that puts money and tell people they can choose where they want to go. You can take your education dollars and put it where you want. I think school choice is a good thing. That way we wouldn't have blacks in areas that are not funded, because blacks are in areas that are not funded.
Right, like Baltimore. I mean, and also I think with anything
like Los Angeles,
yeah,
like Detroit.
Yeah, and anything that where they did a study anywhere that there was school choice, it made the public education system have to do better because now they're in competition, and I think competition is always good. So, Ian, one last question for you: how important is this election? I mean, I know we always say that every election is important, but How important is this election between if Biden wants to get in or if Trump is this a very pivotal election? Is it more important than Hillary Clinton and Trump? What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I think the Hillary Clinton Trump election was very important because if Hillary got in there and continued Obama's policies, because Obama had some policies that were putting us behind the eight ball.
Yeah,
But so that was important. This one is important also because Trump is for America. Biden, Hillary all say China is the best country in the world and they do the best stuff. We need to bring our manufacturing back home. We cannot be beholden to a country that does all our medical manufacturing or most of it, and yet they unleash a virus on us. And then we depend on them to give us drugs for the virus. That
right.
doesn't make any sense. I want to say it's stupid, but that's not polite to say. It doesn't make any sense. And Trump is the only one who is saying this doesn't make any sense. Biden is saying, "Oh, China is wonderful. They're not our enemy." So I think the issue of bringing back manufacturing, making sure that America is strong, America has jobs, business for all of its residents, bringing down the unemployment rate, and what Trump is doing, bringing down the unemployment rate, not just in the country, but in black neighborhoods also, in Hispanic neighborhoods. That's fascinating. No one ever concentrated on that before because they think, we give them handouts. Why bring down their unemployment rate? But people want to work and people need to work and have a sense of self and get rid of that inferiority complex that they want to throw upon black people.
So wait, one last question. So who are you voting for?
Oh, Republican all down the ticket.
So that I know in Texas I know in some states they only can vote by mail. In California, can y'all go to can y'all vote in person or is it all vote by mail?
No, you can vote in person.
So I'm voting in person. I'm actually going to vote on election day on
Me too. Me too.
because I kind of heard some things about voting early, even if you're voting in person. So I also procrastinate, so it's not like
I know what you mean. Which brings me to another thought. Democrats try to keep saying that how Republicans want to suppress the vote and diminish voting, but the opposite is true. Demo- Democrats have gotten voting from election day to like months before the day of voting, so
yeah,
they can try to harvest as many votes as they get. So not that Republicans want to suppress the vote, but the Constitution says you vote on the first Tuesday of November. But Democrats have you voting on the in October, in January,
right.
whatever. So
That goes to show if they don't cheat or try to do something to the system, they won't win because they know they don't have any winning policies.
well, yeah, it's a corrupt party from its head to its toe. It's corrupt. It needs to go, but it has the black people. And unless we interrupt that deal that they made, we're not getting anywhere. We have to interrupt the deal.
All right. Well, I know you're busy, and hopefully, I'll have you back on before the election. But thank you again. I'll also put your information down. Y'all get out there and vote. Thank y'all for watching. Please, again, share, like, subscribe. And I'm going to use the term like Larry Elder. Let's get out there and vote because we have a country to save.
Amen.